What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today we're here with Miss Shirley Husar. Now, last time I actually saw Shirley was actually at the Building Bridges Houston event. Am I correct, Shirley?
Yeah, that is correct. You're good.
Well, I should be. I mean, man, I don't smoke no drugs, so there we go. I try to keep my mind sober much as possible.
Absolutely.
So I'm pretty sure you guys that first saw her, because there's some new people that came on the channel. She invited us to Politicon and Taste of Soul, and that was out in Los Angeles last year. And she has spoke a little part on the video. A lot of people like Sister Shirley and everything, and so she's here today to talk to you
Hey,
guys.
family, how you doing out there? We're gonna talk some good stuff today.
Yes,
Hanging out with
now,
Brother Phil,
okay.
Houston.
So let's get that's before the new people. Let's see your hat. You're like, oh my God,
Oh my God.
why are you wearing the Trump
I'm
hat?
perplexed. I'm perplexed.
Explain to the audience why you're wearing the Trump hat.
My name is Shirley Husar, Husar. I am the CEO of Urban Game Changers. That's when we go in the urban communities and we hold elected officials accountable as well as ourselves. We are a more conservative-based organization that are nationwide. We're in 13 different states, from California to Texas to Louisiana to Arkansas to Alabama. You can go to our website to learn more about Urban Game Changers. This year marks the 400th anniversary of African Americans in this country. 1619, the War Dutchman brought 20 Africans to Fort Monroe, Virginia, and we will be celebrating it in August. My Trump hat. In 2016, I was the surrogate and delegate for the state of California for President Trump. Unlike people who have taken the red pill, and unlike the people who say that they walked away, I have always been a Republican from my conception of being able to vote. I believe in God, family, and country. I believe in opportunities of entrepreneurship and in being a self-proprietor, a self-enterprise woman that believes that we as individuals, as African Americans, do not have to be dependent or reliable upon the government, but upon ourselves to work together to make a difference in this country.
Okay, so you label yourself as a black conservative, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, is there a difference between a white conservative and a black conservative?
I think that the values for every culture, there's only one race, the human race, so I won't say every race is different. People use that term. I think everyone's culture has different agendas. When we think about the Jewish agenda, when we think about the Native Americans agenda, when we think about the African American or the ADOS, the African American descendants of slaves who are conservatives, I think we have similar camaraderies. We all believe in family, God, and country, but all of our family issues are not the same. In the African American community, we're dealing with the African American male that are being emasculated. We're dealing with, we talk about prison reform and we talk about abortion. But honestly, as a conservative, my concern is jobs and opportunity and self-proprietorship. I like to talk about free enterprise. I like to talk about LLCs and S corporations. Where in the white conservative movement, many of them are very familiar with that. With our community, it is not. So yes, I can say I am an African American descendant of slave or a black conservative, and that does make me a little bit different than most.
Okay, so the word conservative means to conserve. So what are you trying to conserve?
What we're trying to do, as far as conservative, a person that conserves means that they use wisdom in their judgment of their spending or whatever they have allotted money towards. When you get someone that's liberal, that means they're free, they're willing to pay and do everything and give everything away. A conservative doesn't do that. They make a judgment call on their resources for their livelihood. Instead of going to the most expensive restaurant in town, you might just say, you know what, I'm going to conserve and hold back and just eat at, Sillers or Morton's or Lori's. And I mean, those are still high-end restaurants. Or a conservative, or you can say, hey, I'm going to conserve and cook at home. A conservative may set aside money. A conservative is one that understands that there are things in this country that have priority issues over minority issues. So there's things that we must conserve and hold back, but things that we must propel to do better in this country.
So, a lot of people, like I said, I'm letting you get through the shock of seeing her talk about that she was a delegate for Donald Trump. And that's why I'll try to ask the questions I know you are already saying about her, and I want her to say it herself. She got plenty of mouth for y'all. I know her very well, so that's why I'm gonna throw all these questions
I'm very
at her.
shy. I'm very shy.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so it's like, so for the person to say, well, how could you support Donald Trump and all the things that he say, why? Why are you supporting Donald Trump?
You know, politics works in two forms. It's the better of two evils. It consists of three platforms: money, numbers, and people, and power and time. Well, that's say money, number, and power. But I'm going to add time in there. So when I'm selecting a candidate, when it comes down to the final two, I look at the candidate and see if they check all the boxes for me. And he checked all those boxes. Hillary Clinton did not. Hillary Clinton called black people super predators. Hillary Clinton basically have targeted and went after the Haitian people. Hillary Clinton sat up there and danced and talked about instead of policies and things that they were going to do to financially reward and excel African American people. She didn't do that. Now, you might say, well, Trump didn't do that either. Well, what Trump did do is he pulled back the veil that many people were not discussing, which was illegal immigration. Illegal immigration right now has been devastating in California. We're down to 6% African Americans in this state. And I had to take that in consideration when voting for this president. When he came out and said he wanted that wall, he had my vote immediately. Right now, and African Americans in California are suffering. We are at a large number of homelessness downtown LA. Mexicans, Americans will not hire us. Illegal immigrants are taking up and plugging up everything with immigrants who say that immigrants and refugees should come first, and African American people aren't even on the platform. So when you find that you are part of a culture of people that are on a verge of extinction, that are totally disrespected, who are not even looked up as human, but as subhuman in a state as California is, and what it continues to do to a nation of people that can affect you guys nationally, because we're the platform that hates Trump. Unfortunately, I have to say that. I'm in a very war state. Yes, I supported this president, and yes, I voted for this president. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. There's things he says I don't agree with. Absolutely, he does. But does he overall support my means of God, family, and country? Yes. Does he understand the economic platforms of reparations? Does he understand the economic platform when it comes to tariffs and remittance? And remittance means, for those who may not know it, is when immigrants, like the Mexican Americans, for example, if you're an immigrant or Mexican, I don't know if you know this or not, Phil, but $30 billion a year go out of America to Mexico. Just Mexico alone are sending that money. But I've been told $250 million or more than $500 million nationwide to different countries: Mexico, Canada, India, China. These people come here and they take money out of our communities and out of the Black communities. So I have to take all of those things in consideration. And then I made my judgment call way before there was a Candace on, way before there was a ATL, way before all these people who came on board. And I call them the millennials. They all could be my children. I'm that old. And I've been very adamant about, let's talk about the economic platform and the family values that need to be pushed forth. And Trump, overall, from a 1 to 10, he fit most of those criteria. And so I voted for him.
Well, let's talk about California history just a little bit. Like I said, I'll just assert, like I said, my age range. I remember the 80s, I remember the 90s, and a lot of places like Compton and, that was heavily Black, right? And you look today, where did the Black people go?
That is always the magic number. Where did these Black people go? Well, I tell you where they went to. They went to prison. They went to 3 strikes, you're out. Because of the Clinton administration with the 3 strikes, you're out. We were targeted. We're still targeted. We have MS-13. We have police colluding with gang members and state officials who are no longer African American. And the African American elected officials that are in place are also working not for their people, but in their own best interest, and the immigrants and illegals that are coming in. They're the new, we must feel sorry and help these people. Where did Black people go? They got arrested. They got put in jail, and most of them just said, we're out of here. The economic platform of living in California is very, very expensive. Taxes are very, very expensive to live here. Gas is very high. Water is very high. So if you are a young family and you want to move forward, you're not going to stay in California anymore. The cost of living just does not support the economic base that support our people. On top of the invasion of the gang members in Black communities. They've come in our communities. They've done cocktail bottles and tossed them in houses. They have harassed our elderly. Many of our homes have been sold because they've been fearful to live in their community. There is no camaraderie with these people. We keep talking about Black and brown, Black and brown. There is no Black and brown. That's a notion. Those days are done. This is about a nation of people, immigrants, illegals, and American Hispanics, the Spanish community, moving and flooding into California and taking it over, saying that this state was theirs and they want it back.
Well, before some people say something about the Molotov cocktails and the targeting of African Americans, that's not a lie. I've seen the news stories. There's been, many federal agencies that have been arresting certain gang members who are targeting and charging them with hate crimes and civil rights violations on top of intimidation. So that has happened. So I want to make sure we put that
Absolutely.
out there before they say, oh, she's just a right-wing Republican and just talking those talking points. No, I'm just telling you it did happen.
I don't have people's talking points. I have life points, meaning that I have lived this. I am a native born and bred in this state. I am very passionate and very real about this country. And I want to see America made great, but it's not going to be made great in California because we've got too many immigration issues. The wall could be built, but we still need to talk about people taking money out of the community, taking cash and building it in their country. They're making California a third world country. Right now we have typhus, which is like the Black Plague. We have hepatitis A, we have herpes, we have tuberculosis. These are things that are very prevalent and growing in our state. And you can Google anything that I say. I'm not making these things up. It has nothing to do with Trump. You can see the hat, but don't be distracted by the hat. This is a system that keeps it raw and real. I'm 100. I'm from South Central LA, baby. So I don't take crap from nobody because I make it real. I'm going through some hell right now. I'm mad because my people are hurting. My people are seriously hurting on the streets, the homelessness and the jobs that are not available because these Latinos said they ain't gonna hire us. We don't speak Spanish. Why should I speak Spanish when I'm an American in this country? So we've got a war against immigration, illegal immigration, and immigrants who come here legally and hire illegal immigrants, but they discriminate against us, meaning the people who are looking like me, African American, or especially the descendant of slaves.
Now, let me pose a question I posed to a guy that I interviewed when I was out there in California. Since we know how dire it is, and yes, politically, we need to definitely make some moves, or we going to just not be there, right? Or we just make an exodus to the South. Just say, hang it up, let them have it. But if you're going to stay there, and you're saying that you're not being hired on jobs, it's basically white companies, so wouldn't it be more imperative to do for self? Wouldn't it be more imperative to create our own businesses so we don't have to worry about having to speak a different language or, begging, and when I say begging, I mean constantly asking white folks to give us jobs because let's call it what it is. White supremacy would rather hire other people over us any day. Because they rather hire them, actually, the immigrants, because what do they hold over their head? We just deport you. We'll call ICE on you. They can't deport Black Americans. So what's your take on that?
No, they can't deport us because we've been here for 400 years. We're not an immigrant, nor we are an illegal immigrant. For those who are descendants of slaves that can trace their ancestors back, and that's not through DNA, that's through genealogy. I've been able to trace back so far 1854. So that means that's before the emancipation. So you need to, first of all, know who you are as an African American person. Absolutely, Phil. You need to make a decision if you're going to stay or leave. If you see that it's not economically feasible to stay in this state and you are on Section 8 or WIC, or you say, you know what, I'm out of work right now, then you need to move. Texas has great opportunities. There's no income tax in Texas. Ohio has opportunities. Florida has opportunities. Tennessee has opportunities. Every state may have issues, yet those states aren't so biased. This state is biased. If you must stay here, you need to collaborate with your family member. You need to consolidate your sources, your livelihood, and your lifestyle with your family members. I believe that Black families should come either tighter together or make a conscious decision to exit the state and let it fold and fall upon itself. Personally, myself, I'm bi-coastal. I believe in a Cal-Tex moment, meaning that I do things in California as a representative for the president and for the Trump team and the MAGA team that's out here fighting for justice, for judicial issues that we are trying to push through legislation issues that they're trying to put upon us that just ridiculous things like, we can't have a plastic straw. We have to have paper straw. They're trying to get rid of paper receipts. They're trying to have 2 freeways. I think the 99 and the 5 freeway be speedless. One of the congressional leaders who is a Republican These people are cuckoo on both sides, are pushing legislation that really is not addressing the health and sanitation issue in this country. So I'm expecting to see martial law coming. I'm expecting to see possibly a plague come up on California. And I'm not making this up because of the rats that are downtown LA or killing Black people. Black people are dying in tents, multiple tents downtown LA, and we're dealing with that. So if you find yourself living in a tent, if you find yourself every day scraping and not breathing, that's not living. Then you need to make a conscious decision, have your Section 8, your WIC, your income, or whatever you're doing, and find a way to get out of the state so that you can regroup, rebrand, and rebrain yourself, because they're here trying to transform our minds so that we are worthless people.
Well, when I went to California, and I was just kind of doing the assessment, at least of the LA area, and I was just seeing how, it changed from the time I had went maybe around 20, 10-ish, 11-ish to maybe last year. And I went, I say, wow, it's like night and day how this place has changed. You get what I'm saying? And things are still kind of normal from what I saw, but I know it's a big difference. And when I started listening to all the stories from the brothers and sisters when I was out there in Crenshaw about what's really going down in California with the Black community, I was like, well, when did this leadership change where they were just extremely, anti-Black? Because I know Kamala Harris was the Attorney General, and we all put out her information of how she targeted Black men, how she didn't even want to let them out when they were even exonerated.
No.
I mean, where does all these politicians come from that wanted to target us?
That is a very good question. I think what can happen to you happened to us. These people slowly creeped upon us. They came to our Black churches. They spoke as if they spoke in our best interest. But again, before social media, people weren't able to research and talk about accountability. We've been talking about accountability since 2011, and a little bit, actually before that, when I was with hiphoprepublican.com and .tv. What Urban Game Changers was consciously saying is you have to have an accountability, know the numbers, know the stats, know what these people are voting for, because people go by emotions. We like them, we look at them. Camilla 101 or Kamala, or whatever she calls herself, want to be Black Harris. This lady never had African-American people's best interest in mind. And we've never said, I always said, I had a difference with someone on a radio show, and I asked them, what legislation has she put through to better the lives of Black people? If you love her so much, if you love Maxine, if you love Karen Bass, if you love all these people so much, what legislation did they put on the table to make a difference in the Black community? And they can't tell you that. They just say, oh, well, they're Black, and they're always saying they hate Trump, so that's the answer. Hating Trump is not the answer. Loving Trump is not the answer. What the answer is that you need to understand legislation. You need to understand law. We need to come together and put our political differences aside, our party differences aside, our ideology differences aside, and say, what about African-American people? What about the descendants of slaves? Because all skin folks ain't kin folks. And that's what we've learned. All these people that look like us, not only are they not kin because they're not African-American, but have a kindred spirit in our best interests. Are they fighting in our best interests? And as soon as you learn that, you should vote them out. But we don't do that. We vote on name notoriety. We vote because we like them. We will vote because they come around once a year and we get a nice little chicken dinner or a photo op with them like they're some damn celebrity. These people are not celebrities. These are people who are controlling and running your money. They control your local and state organizations, the things that clean up your streets, the trash, your school board, your water board. These people are running those communities into the ground. Your streets are torn up, the trees are tearing up. But in the better communities, or the whiter communities, I can say, they fight back. We don't. We allow immigrants to come in, invade our communities. Our men are gone. California, Hollywood loves to promote the emasculated Black man, and they love to promote the beta Black man. They like to promote the very strong alpha lesbian Black woman. But yet the Black family, God, family, and country, which the Republican Party stands for, and this presidency stands for, that is not a platform that's number one with them.
Well, a lot of people have been speaking about, now being a little bit more politically astute, right? A lot of Black people have been looking into the Democratic Party and saying, wait a minute, hold on. We've been voting for over 50 years for these people, and they haven't gotten us anything. They have practiced, the policy of benign neglect with Black people, but they make sure to promise things to LGBTQ. It promised things to the Jewish people. It promised
Absolutely.
things to immigrants. It promised things to Arabs or whoever else they want to promise things to. But when it come to us, they try to bring out John Lewis and he telling his Selma story and trying to shame black people into voting. But now is a section of us is waking up and say this, okay, we need tangible policies, and the vote is up for sale now because the vote is a business transaction. So I know you've been hearing talk about a black agenda, right? So we feel that if it's Democrats gonna give it to you, okay, give them the vote. If it's Republicans, if it's Trump, we don't know, give it to him. But what is the agenda that possibly Trump could offer black people? Because the vote is up for sale now.
Absolutely. I believe what Trump is doing right now, as far as African American community, there is policies that have passed that are talking about rebuilding the community. And they're out there. There's certain acts upon the tables that we're looking at. But I mean, as far as clear legislation, you can't look for Trump to do that. That has to come from us. We need to have a good sit down at the table, have a good meal, and we need to come together as a unity. Like me and you have been creating events. Urban Game Changers is going to do an event. This is a plug for August the 1st through the 25th in Virginia, and we will give more information to Phil later on. But, you know, we are talking about we have to create legislation. Now, what's going to be in this legislation? Well, in this legislation, everybody's talking about reparations. But let's talk about the fact that we do need businesses, and there are government programs that are allocated towards African American people, but we don't know how to reach them. We don't know how to break them down. We don't know how to use the right bill number. These are discussions that we need to have. Like if you go to congress.gov right now, go to congress.gov, and you were to type that in, you will learn there's many bills on the table, and there's some that have passed and turned into laws that have monies allocated that we as a nation of people should be utilizing. But the Native Americans know how to do it. The Latino Coalition, if you look at the Latino Coalition, they tell their people and give them direction. The CBC is not about the CBC anymore. The CBC is about immigrants, illegal immigrants, gays, and everybody else. So we get thrown into this batch of craziness. We get a bad gumbo. It's a bad version of a gumbo, and we get thrown in. So we don't even know what we are anymore. So before we keep saying, well, Trump should give us something, we got to know, what do we want? We need to know what we want. Okay, we want jobs. Well, that's not good enough. We should want businesses. We should want money allocated to our businesses. We need to start sitting back. There's many professional, successful people that are out there. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Phil. You can email us, because we're coming together and we're talking about a legislation and monies that are going to go towards helping people who understand how to manage that money. Because if we get money, if we did get reparations, you're going to see people go to the nearest Chinese hair salon and that money will be gone. So we've got to make some adjustments personally before we can start saying we want the presidents to do things, or if it's any president, we need to make some adjustments within our own community.
So you mentioned the Congressional Black Caucus, and you know, I've stated this many times before that all of them need to be primary, every last one of them, because they, like you said, they don't work for black people. So what would be the people that have the same mindset all over the country say, you know what, in California, I'm sick of Karen Bass, I'm sick of Maxine, I'm sick of, all these different people, I'm sick of Kamala, even though she's a senator. How could people, go run against them? Because for instance, they're talking about one guy that's trying to run against Lindsey Graham as a black individual or whatever, just to talk about a Senate race, to just throw that in there. But what could they do to primary the CBC?
I think the first thing you need to do is become a Republican and join one of the local Republican clubs. You can contact your local state, like we have the California Republican Club here, California Republican Party, but you also have the Republican National Committee. And we, who are seasoned, more conservatives, have reached out to them, and we've been trying to tell them, look, you've got to reach more out to the urban community, but it takes money. And I think that's the biggest challenge with the Republican Party, is failing. They're not providing that money that we need to run against those candidates. It takes millions of dollars. To say you're going to write me a check for $5,000, that's no money in politics. $10,000, that's no money. $200,000 is no money. Now, for some people say, sure, that's a lot of money for me. Not when you're going from major seats in California and some other major national seats. Senate seats and congressional seats are very expensive seats. So just like a music artist, a lot of these artists that you see out there, they're not great singers, but they're great packaged. So we have to package ourselves, and we need to have those conversations. Is this the right candidate? What kind of background you come from? Or do you have a friend on the side? We can't use you. Are you a drug head? What is your pluses and your negatives? Are you a positive person? Do you really believe that you can do it? Are you a ride or die kind of girl or guy? Can you handle criticism? Can you handle to be under the radar? These are the things that we need to identify to support a candidate. We just don't want to run somebody and say, well, I'm just going to run them because I don't like so-and-so. Well, that doesn't fix the problem. Whoever you're running, you need to understand their ideology and their viewpoint, and they should have the same values as you. But, this is what I'm talking about, Phil. We have to have conversations. Thank God for your show and you giving me this opportunity, because I know there's things that you may not always agree with me or even agree with the president, but we do agree for a better African American community. We are smart, intelligent, confident culture of people that have not been respected. We are being set aside. We are being disengaged with our own communities because we are putting all of our energies towards some people who say here, I'm hurting, I've got babies. Well, we've got babies too. And if you come here, you ought to keep your legs cold. Stop coming here dropping all them babies in this country. You come here just because you want a free check. We came here because we had no choice. We came here as commodity and free goods. They traded us, they beat us, they raped us. They used our men and they castrated our men. They did everything they could to destroy us. They treated us like an animal because we were cattle. Now look at us. We are still striving people. We still have a voice at the table, and we're going to keep pressing to have that voice at the table. We need to stop this immigration flood into our communities, because what these people are doing are taking our resources that are destroying us. We need to have a conversation with each other so that we come forward as a united front.
Well, let me say something to the people that could be listening, and I stated this before. This is a African diaspora channel. What that means is that people from all over the world, including this country, of course, is welcome to have a conversation here. Even people that I don't agree with 100%, whether they could be a black conservative, Democrat, independent, whether they are Nation of Islam, Christian, Hebrew Israelite, whatever you want to call yourself, atheist. Anybody is mostly welcome, as long as we have kind of the mindset of understanding that there's issues in the black community, and maybe Shirley has a way of getting something done that maybe is not being thought about. That's when you bring everybody together. That's called unification. Unification doesn't mean that you bring everybody together to think like you. Because see, what we're seeing even politically is this: if you don't agree with me, then you the enemy. Like, well, we shouldn't be doing that in the black community. We ain't got enough people to do that. That's first and foremost. I think that we should address these issues, right, Shirley? Address the issues.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think before we address the issues, I think we need to know the issues. We need to know each other. We need to respect each other's viewpoint. And then even if we get a selfie and start writing these things down and emailing each other out saying, what's your 1, 2, 3 issues? For me in California, it's immigration, because I see what they do to the African American community. For me, it's seeing how black men are being emasculated. For me, it's seeing how black families are being looked upon as non-existent and disrespected. These people come here and they're only about 5'2". They disrespect us. The police are colluding with the MS-13. For example, in Stockton, California, they gave $1.5 million to the illegal gang members to keep peace into the community. Well, hell, they could have gave that to the Crips and the Bloods. They didn't do that for them, but they're going to give it to illegal immigrants. So there's a lot of underground things going on. Look at the Mueller investigation. They found no colluding for Trump. They found nothing wrong. They've wasted our time. Karen Bass in the black community in Culver City, when Trump was elected, within 3 weeks, she had a town hall meeting I wanted to go to. She says, we've got proof, we've got evidence of President Trump. This is what she said. And she brought a Russian specialist in. And all they did was talk about, we're going to have him out within a year. We've got a lot of stuff that's going to come out on him with Russian and colluding, and all this stuff was false pretense. So why would we continue to give energy to the Democrat Party, who's now saying, well, it's the media who promoted it? No, but it was you that perpetuated it. It was your party that did not think about the concerns of the people. Forget the party. What about good people? What about the homeless people? What about people who can't get any jobs? What about families who are not communicating, who don't have financial resources to just pay for electric, light, and gas? Every month you are calculating and struggling. This is not fair. Why should we struggle when people come here and send $30 billion of remittance back to their own country, like Mexico, and handle things through cash? Oh, come on. We've got to wake up, my people. We got to wake up. Conversations that me and Phil and Dinus and so many of us are out there. T. West are out there. Yvette Cornell's out there. Stacey Washington. There's so many people. Sonny Johnson, God bless you. Shout out to her. There's just people I love. Kiki Green, I love her. There's so many of us out here. We all come from different perspectives and different energies. But there's one thing that we're all adamant about. We want a better life for ourselves. But that won't happen unless there's legislation that is commenced from us that we say, okay, yes, this is what we want. Here you go. Do it.
Okay. So you mentioned something earlier, and we got to talk about, me, I'm going to get to this. You have a lot of black conservatives out there, and there's more and more of them. You see them with the Trump hats, like you got going to the White House, taking pictures, et cetera. And you have different factions like Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens with that Turning Point USA. That's one little faction that people are joining in on. But what the issue with a lot of black Americans have with the conservative GOP Republicans is that it's too many white supremacists or white supremacist sympathizers in that party. They're not shown the door, or they aren't feel like, hey, you're not really welcome here. I understand you could say not all of them are that way. I'm not saying all of them are. But the fact is, racists feel too comfortable in that party. And yes, I know Democrats got plenty of racism there too. But we're talking about conservatives today. So how do you expect, not you, but just the Republican Party expect African Americans to come into a party when you're seeing those kind of people at the rallies and fighting black people we saw during the Trump rallies, etc.? How do you expect that? Or are you trying to separate yourself into your own, black conservative type of party?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say, I don't believe there's different races. I believe there's one race, and that's the human race. I believe there's different cultures of people, from the states you live in to how you were brought into this country, from Italian to African Americans to even Africans. So there's different cultures. And then there's different ideologies of cultures, of beliefs, of empowerment. Every being, listen to me, every being feels that they're the superior being. Meaning that white people feel that they're the superior being, black people feel that they're superior being. Every being feels that they're the superior being. So in knowing that, when I go into the game of politics, or when I'm dealing with someone who is quote unquote a white supremacist, I realize that they think that they're the superior being. And you know what? If you think about this country, it was built on conquistadors. People who built this country were white. They didn't build this country for black people. The Constitution wasn't written for black people. So you have to understand the origin of its history of what we live in. So before we start saying white supremacists, well, this is a white country. This country wasn't built for black people. Black people came here as commodity. That's why we're celebrating the 400 years of still existence and contribution to the country. Because we weren't looked at as a contributor, we were looked at as commodity. They used us, they beat us, they did all kind of things, right? So then you talk about the 13th and the 14th Amendment that goes into 1865, where those amendments came in through, where we say, okay, now we're going to talk about the birthright and the citizenship right, because humans, blacks, were not considered human. They were considered subhuman. So then we became humanized, but then we had to go through the civil rights movement. Now, I'm saying all these different steps so that you realize when you have these white supremacists, you have generations of people who've been told, look, this is our country. We built this country. And we told those Negroes that they're here to serve us. So there's those mindset of those people existing on both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat. And remember that the Ku Klux Klan was created by the Democrat Party, not the Republican Party. Also, the Republican Party was the party that gave African Americans the right to vote. And the Democrat Party is the one that continued to perpetuate governmental systems to keep us divided and conquer, keeping the black man out of the house and breaking the black family. So knowing your history and understanding the diaspora of this country and its longevity and its relationship of black and white. Now, forget about immigration and immigrants who have migrated here. Just black and white in itself, we are a culture of people that have cross-pollinated. So there's a twister in this, because we also had sex with these people and we had children by these people. And so there were people who were called mulattoes who later on changed himself to white. And so a lot of white people are also descendants of slaves. If you study the history of descendants of slaves, because these white people don't even realize they have black genes in their system. So blacks and whites built this country. That's why our body types were tall. We're big people compared to El Salvadorians, compared to Guadalajarans and some of these other people and Chinese people who come from different cultures, because they crossbred us to make us where we are. If we look at white racism and white supremacists is period across the board. It's not about the party that supports it. It's about the fact that white supremacists is across the board. If you care to give energy into that. I don't care to give the energy in. Am I delusional that I don't think they exist? Hell no, I know their asses exist and they know I exist. You stay in your space, I stay in mine, dog. We got respect, right? Okay, we're cool. But when you start crossing the line, then we got to step and have a little difference. We have to do a little conversation going on. And that living in Texas, that there are areas that some black people just know not to venture into because those people are real and they do exist. But is that a priority issue for us to continue to focus on? Or should we be focusing on money and family and opportunities and utilizing, no matter who is in power, specifically Trump, to work in the best interest of black people and demand and expect and put on the table for those allegations that we need about our people to come first? We cannot be distracted by things that are out there that have always been before me and you were even born and will still be here after we're gone. What we do need to do is make a change in our communities and in our own personal lives so that we can look back and say, I made that difference.
Okay, you stated something I need to home in on. You said we need money, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, but what good is money if you're not safe?
What good is money if you're not safe? What do you mean?
Give you an example. You can have all the money in the world, but go into one of these little hick towns here in Texas. What good your money gonna do you?
That's not going to do you any good.
So what that means, so I'm saying that for a reason. So white supremacy is something that we need to talk about because let's go back to what you stated earlier about California and immigration, right? They have sanctuary cities where they can't be touched. Give me a town in America that black people can go to and say, this is our sanctuary city. We won't deal with no racism, no white supremacy. Name one.
So sanctuary cities is not about white supremacy. You're confusing the two.
No, Shirley, listen to the context. Listen to the context. I'm saying I'm using this as an example, right? I stated that, can you give me a city in America that we will be safe and no one will touch us? Like a sanctuary city, they don't have to worry about ICE touching them at all. They won't, if the police can't even call ICE on them, right?
Not necessarily so. That's not necessarily true. They can be touched and they can be arrested. And there's certain parts of them that they won't go to. When I'm in Texas near the military bases, there are a lot of immigrants that won't go in those communities. You wanna base a hypothetical scenario to me. And that's what you're doing. I don't really argue.
No, I'm not basing a hypothetical. I'm basing reality, but I'm just using an example about the safety of African Americans. Let's call it what it is. The CBC cares more about everyone else. I'm saying everyone else than the safety of African Americans. I did a whole news story on the rise of hate crimes on African Americans and that we need that protected class status like the LGBTQ have. Okay.
I'm not arguing with that. So now you're pivoting in a different way. That's not the question you addressed me. Let me say this to you. I believe in safety for our people, and I know that is a priority issue. But I also believe that we need to sit down on the table and write all these issues out. Because for some of us in each state, it's something different. For you, it's safety. For me, I'm dealing with immigration. I'm dealing with hepatitis. I'm dealing with typhus. I'm dealing with black plagues. I'm dealing with communities that are pushing us out on the street and making us homeless. I'm not worried about white supremacy in California as much as I am seeing elderly black people who are sleeping on the streets, black people put in cages. See, every state has a different priority status. I'm not disavowing what you're saying. Safety is always priority for us because it's about preservation. If we don't stay safe, we can't preserve the sperm, we can't preserve the man or the woman or the next generation. So that's a given. I get that. But like I stated, my passion, because of what my situation is in the state that I live in, that is what's prevalent in me. Is I don't see white supremacists in the Ku Klux Klan running around. What I do see is put immigration bills and laws moving steadily forward and pushing us out, and everything with the stores and the markets being written in Spanish and English. That's what I see. When I go in restaurants and stuff, the people have to speak Spanish and English. That's what I see. So when you have engulfed all this every day, it becomes stirring in your spirit and you're very angry and upset about it. So it's a priority. Is safety number one for us? Safety is one of the many things that are number one because it's about the existence of a culture of people. So yes, it's number one as far as nationwide, but it depends. Each state has a priority issue.
Well, everything you just stated and we talked about earlier goes back to safety. Earlier, you talked about being firebombed, which I acknowledge that did happen.
Absolutely.
Talking about running people out of the neighborhoods in different ways. We acknowledge that, was a news story. Federal agents arrested. I think, was it the Hawaiian Gardens gang? Is one of them, I think, if I'm not mistaken. About 100 some of them years ago got arrested by the feds. You mentioned the homeless people on the street who's suffering. You mentioned disease, that's safety. So no matter who's doing it, African Americans aren't protected. Whether it's a Klansman, or alt-right, or whether it's all those things you're discussing.
And Phil, guess what? That's why I wear the hat. That's why I wear the hat. This man has made it prevalent that we are to build that wall, that we need safety, that we need the police to be communing in our community. But we also know in the Black community, we have a little bit more of a stronger agenda of respect. And we need to have a conversation of how we are targeted by local and state police and getting that message to the administration that there needs to be some questioning and some evaluation of the safety of the people that are supposed to keep us safe that are not, but healing us off. So absolutely, safety is a number one priority. But like I said, every state, however you phrase it, reframe it, it still comes down to a nation of people that have issues that need to be addressed and talked about.
Well, now you mentioned the wall, and some people are going to see this and they're going to say, that lady is hateful. That lady doesn't like other groups of people. She wants this wall. What would your response be to people that tell you that?
I've said nothing hateful about anyone. I'm talking about self-preservation of each culture. As I stated before, every being believes that they're the superior being. I believe that African American people are the strongest people in this country. And I say African American, and that's not Africans, and I'll tell you why. Because after 400 years, you have raped us, you have beat us, you have stole our land, America. You've come into our communities and you basically encroached upon our land, and you did things like Black Wall Street, or you created bills and you created loans to take our homes away. You've now put our elderly out on the street, America, and we want an accountability for that. And so am I wrong for being passionate for my people? No, I'm not. Am I very bold and bright to make those points in front of everyone so that we continue to make them know what we're going through and stop hearing everybody else's hard time issue? Absolutely, because you're an immigrant. Immigrants do not have rights over Black people. Black people have no other home. When they say, well, you should go back to Africa. I can't go back to Africa. My people have been here for 400 years. This is our 400th year. When you're talking to a woman who could trace her ancestors back to 1854, my people have contributed to this country. My blood is in this ground. And so if you call that a hatred, ideology, or a thought plan, something's wrong with you, because you should want to fight for whatever country you live in. As a matter of fact, if you come from another country and you want to come here and change ours, you're a weak person to me. You need to go back home and fix what is yours. Go back to your country. You've abandoned your cousin. You've abandoned your fellow man of whatever nationality you are. And you're only using our infrastructure of constitutional rights of capitalism to basically propel your opportunities in this country. Why don't you go back and change the governmental systems in your country and talk more about capitalism versus socialism? Why don't you go back to your country and fix those things and become an elected official, which you've learned here? But instead, you can't. People come here and they criticize and they put us down, but yet they take advantages of the resources. And unfortunately, in California, the resources that are being given to illegal immigrants are a crime, and they're working in devastation against the African American community.
Now, last thing I want to talk about, you made a good point about immigrants and African Americans. Reparations. That is a big conversation right now, reparations.
Yes.
Now, on the side of Black conservatives, as we're talking about, what are their positions on reparations, and how could you go about getting that And would you think possibly would Trump have that discussion?
I think Trump would be interested in that discussion if it was presented in the right form. Right now, there are advisors in the Trump camp, I'm going to have to admit, that have been advising him wrongly regarding the African American community. I don't think Candace Owen is the best and the brightest that we have. I know she's not. I look at her as a child because it could have gave birth to her. There's things that she said that I can tell those are talking points that are given to her. She is not an African American descendant of slaves. She's not an ADOS. She is under, hypothetically, allegedly, they're saying she's a Caribbean woman. Allegedly, they said she's a Caribbean woman. No,
she's Caribbean.
So if she is a Caribbean woman, she cannot relate to the African American culture of people of 400 years. That means her family does not understand the pain of what we have gone through that we've been taught. Everybody's culture have been taught. My mother, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, these people have left this venom of fire of saying, what about us? Why can't we get what we should be allotted to? If Trump's going to sit down with the Native Americans and do a treaty of a tribe and excavate oil off the land and allow them to get money from that and then money to America, if the Jewish coalition can sit back and they can get Jerusalem, if the Mexican Americans can work with Wells Fargo gave $125 billion in loans in 2015 under Obama to help advance the Latin community, $125 billion. So African Americans complained. So in 2017, they said, well, we're going to give you 60 billion. Why do we get 60 billion and they get 125 billion? Because there is a plot against us to have our culture of people diminish, be destroyed, and become less than. We as American people, when they talk about reparations isn't just like cutting a check because of the descendant of slaves. It's understanding that there's entities and there are viable entities and laws that have been put into place that are working against the African American people. If you want to learn more, Yvette Cornell has talked about it. I have talked about it on my YouTube channel. I've talked about it on my Facebook channel that you guys can follow. Urban Game Changers have group conversation about this. This will be an ongoing topic, but as I stated at the very beginning, legislation, my friend, my brother Phil, as we both know, has to come from us. We have to tell them why we should get reparations, and we need to explain to them that they make sure that if their Democrats are going to say reparations, it can't be for Black people, because everybody Black are not descendants of slaves. It can't be for all skin folks, because all skin folks are not kin folks. It has to have a very clear clarity, which is African American descendant of slaves. And then people say, well, how can you prove that? Well, like I said before, genealogy. You can go back. Look, we were commodity trades and goods and service. White people kept record on us. We have census bureaus on us. We can date times and places of our families on us. If you don't know how to do that, go to ancestor.com, go to a legacy tree. There's other people that'll help you with your genealogy so that you understand your worth in this country. You're a valuable entity. You're smart, you're intelligent, confident people. We all need to work together instead of throw stones at one another based on this man or based on the color of this hat or any of this kind of stuff. Because what we'll find out in the Black conservative movement, there are conservatives that just don't really have the in-depth knowledge of reparations. And they don't even want to, they're so caught up into celebrityism. I won't say who I'm talking about. And even the other two women that sit back, and a lot of people like those two ladies. But I'm telling you, they're nice ladies, but do they have the depth and the knowledge and the history of African Americans? No. So step aside and let many of us who have been Republicans for many years, decades, step to the forefront and provide a viable plan for this administration. And that's going to take all of us, including non-Republicans, to say enough is enough. This is what we want. I have to agree with you, Phil. Not only the safety, but we need to go back and say, if they're not going to provide us anything and we're going to sit back and keep waiting and we're not asking, then why should you get our vote? Because see, what we are, our vote is on the pedestal right now. And that's why the Democrats are talking about reparations, which they've never done before. That bill that Sheila Jackson put on the table doesn't state anything but a committee. We need to say, this is what we want. We need to find a congressional leader and we need to push it forward. We need more candidates that are descendants of slaves to run in urban Black communities. And we need to talk about that as well.
Yes, I feel that. Like it can't just be an online conversation. I stated that. You have to get ADOS candidates running, and you have to
Yes,
get them to win if you want to get
yes,
that agenda pushed forward. I stated that. It can't just be online. I mean, you can't demand them to do something and say, wait a minute, you may be the person that may have to go to Congress yourself and push those policies forward, enough of you. That way you get behind you. But I feel this is if one person have it, if Trump has it, and they give us what we want, vote for Trump. If a Democrat has it, vote for them. But at the end of the day, like I said, your vote is a business transaction. Now, with that being said, Sister Shirley, do you agree with, or you can tell me yes or no, that the mantra people saying now, no black agenda, no black tangibles, no nothing for the African American community, no vote? Do you agree with that?
do I believe that it doesn't exist? And you need to clarify your question.
Okay, my question is, people online are saying now is we're sick and tired of being political whores in the
I
black
agree with
community.
that. We
And we're
are.
saying that we're tired of watching you guys promise everybody everything. Right now, APAC is going on. I'm going to review it so I can see what these Democratic candidates are promising or what they're not promising, right? I want to hear it. So since they promise different people different things and they're not promising things to African Americans, we're saying either give us something, tangible policies that will affect our lifestyle, like you're talking about in California, etc., or we just not voting. Do you agree with that? Yes or no?
Yes, I agree with that because legislation is what's going to make a difference from our people. That legislation has to come from us. We can't expect someone to give us something when they don't know us because what they have given us has failed us. What they have allocated towards us has set us back. And that's what we have to look at what we have been given. We've been given welfare. We've been given government funded. We've been told to do small business loans. We're not been given more knowledge about SBA. We're not talking about black trades in the community. We're not talking about the tech opportunities of UX, UI, and being developers. We're not talking about monies allocated specifically in staying in a certain job genre. Bear with me on this one. For example, if you talk about the Indians, the Indian community, they're out there, they own all the hotels. If you were to talk about the Filipinos or the Vietnamese people, they're doing your nails. If you want to talk about the Armenians and the Pakistanis, they own gas stations. So these people come here and they tell their children, this is what we do. This is how we grow our culture of people economically. They find trades or platforms that are high yielding that grow in this country to grow their people. We haven't even stabilized that for ourselves yet. For me, I believe the African American people should focus on the tech community. We talk about entertainment and basketball. Well, if that's the case, we have black people who are very successful on the entertainment field, on the athletic field, but they're not backing candidates. We don't have foundations. The Jewish community have foundations. Then they have a tax write-off and they take those foundational monies and they propel candidates and people to do well in their community that represent the Jewish community. Who do we have out there that have foundations that are creating money to develop a relationship of trades and existing opportunities, not 4 and 8 years of college? I'm not talking about that so that you can find out later on that your degree ain't worth nothing. I'm talking about skill set ideas that could bring immediate wealth to us. And we all know that's through technology. But we do have something to offer on the table in that we have people who have money, like entertainers, who could say, you know what, I'm going to back this candidate, or we're going to create a foundation to back candidates regarding the descendant of slaves. This is what I don't see in the black entertainment community. All they want to do is continue to keep confusion and flutteredness, meaning that we're just fluttered all over the place talking about hating Trump and I can't stand this president. Once he gets out, it's going to get better. And what does that really mean? That doesn't mean anything. These people hold the purse strings and the power strings. So we have to think a little bit more smarter and strategic wise in this war. And if they're not going to work with us, then we shouldn't work with them. But we have to first work with ourselves.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. So, Sister Shirley, how can people get in contact with you? Because I know you're going to have some people that like you and you're going to have some hate mail. So I want you to get both of them.
Well, first of all, keep your hate mail, Negro. Save that for your Uncle JoJo. But if you love me and you like me out here, and even if you don't like the Trump hat, don't worry, he ain't going to be president forever. He's a good man, though. We really believe in his messages. You can join urbangamechangers.com. You can follow me, shirleyhusar.com. You can email me. I'm going to give you my email, shirleyhusar, Husar, @gmail.com. Go ahead and PayPal, make a donation. We are going to be talking about not only like Yvette Cornell and Tone Talks talking about descendants of slaves, but how do you determine you are a descendant of slaves? What does that really, really mean? Because as I watch Yvette, she provides excellent information telling you why and what we are, but I want to let you know how you know you are that. You know, we need to talk about our rights. We need to talk about what we've just talked about. Is safety more priority or is immigration more priority? We have to have these discussions so that we write them down, make it clear, and create that legislation. This is not a one-way street, people. This is not about us attacking. That is what white America has done. We are divided by ourselves because that is what has happened through slave trades. They keep us divided, they keep us angry, and they keep us emotional. Cut the emotions down. Think more logically. Do your homework. Research what I'm telling you. Make a logical and a critical thought plan through your decision making on candidacies and on policies that deal within your own community. And if you're willing to do that, I can set you on the road to find people of the same kindred spirit. Again, in August 1st through the 25th, we will be celebrating the 400 years of African Americans in this community. Stay tuned because I know Phil's going to have me back on here. We will have the date, the time, the location, and the cost. It will be within reason, but you are going to want to be at this event. We're going to have amazing speakers, but we're going to have a down-home conversation with some good down-home food, and we're going to keep it real. We're going to keep it raw. We're going to keep it 100.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you contact Miss Shirley Husar, and you may see her on different other media outlets. We don't know. I mean, last time you was what, locally and on Fox?
I've been on Fox, I've been on CNN with Don Lemon. I've talked to Ann Reed. I've been on a lot of different shows. So I'm very grateful for those platforms, but baby, I got to pay the bills. So, you know, I'm not caught up into celebrityism because I'm from California. So I know, great, you're on TV. That doesn't make a difference other than execution. We need to have execution. We need to stop attacking and talking about each other and doing memes and calling each other names. We need to cut those people out. We need to block them out of our lives. Block the negativity, block the losers. Get those losers out of your life and promote more good conscious thinking in your career and in your hearts. And then God will continue to bless you. Thank you for following me. Thank you for supporting me. For those who are following me, who know me personally. And thank you, Phil. I love you. You are a good chocolate brother, big, thick chocolate brother that you could just slap on some extra grease and some good hot biscuits. You are a good man. Wow. You've always been out there fighting for the Black community, and you've always said good things, even if people agree or disagree. You have always been a fighter for the cause, and I gotta love a chocolate brother like yourself.
Okay, Sister Shirley, the biscuits though, not the biscuits, Sister Shirley. We don't, biscuits is a bad word on these platforms.
No. Biscuit, gravy, butter. Come on now.
No, not the butter biscuit. That's a bad word. That's cooning.
Good boy.
That's cooning now.
Boy, what's your problem, boy? Don't you know you like some butter biscuit?
Oh, okay, now Sister Shirley, all right, you got to stop.
Or watermelon, that's ignorant.
Sister Shirley, all right, Sister Shirley, all right, you getting too far. You get too far.
That's all right,
well, I understand where your heart's at. We gonna work on the terminology. I understand where your heart's at, and the good Lord, may He bless you and keep working with you. You're a work in progress like I am. So everyone, you know, contact her. Yes, she has a personality out of this world. You should see how she is. Trust me. She has a personality. So contact her. But thank you guys for listening, and see you next time.
Thank you guys. God bless.